Hi, my name's Danielle. I'm an independent Kaszazz consultant in Tassie, and I'd like to share with you a few things about our Bellish Ezy-Press. This is our Ezy-Press. It's an A4 size die cutting machine. It comes with our pads that I use for our cutting and embossing. I've done a video, a basic overview video, so you can check that out and see what the different pads are used for. So basically our machine can lock into place, and we have plates that slide out front and back, and carry handle and a handle on the end, which is nice and easy to use. And along the front here are our basic instructions of our pad combinations, so an easy quick reference. And there are lots and lots of things you can do with it, so come and join me for a project. This is a little project I'm going to show you how to make today. This is a Shrinky Dink tag. So this is one of the little tags that it gets 9 times thicker and shrinks down to 1/3 of its size. And I actually cut it out with the Ezy-Press. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We need our base pad A, and I found that you need a couple of shims just to make it cut through properly. So I've got 2 just of your A4 copy paper, a tag, and our Shrinky Dinks on top. Now I haven't found that maybe that makes any difference whether you put smooth side or rough side down. I just tend to put the smooth side down because that's the side that is more likely to get impressions into it. Okay, and cutting mat D on top. Now Shrinky Dinks is quite a thick plastic, so you do need to just take it easy and make sure that you're not putting too much pressure on your machine. And just wind it through slow to make sure it cuts through nice and evenly. Okay, and if you do find it's hard, please reverse your stack and maybe take out a shim, check your right pads and so on and so forth. Okay, now it's stuck into our mat a little bit, so I just need to lift that up. Okay, that's cut through perfectly. That's just what I wanted it to do. Okay, so we can pop that out like so. There's our Shrinky Dink. If you have any really rough edges where it's sort of stuck in your die a little bit, just peel them off, because when you shrink your Shrinky Dink, any little nicks can become really obvious. So just sort of brush those down and make sure you get those little edges off. Okay, and I'll show you how to decorate it before we shrink it. Okay, so there's our tag, and what we're going to do to get the little flourishes in the corner, these are our leafy flourish from our recent release. I'm going to use Stays On ink, and I'm going to stamp on the smooth side. So Stays On is a permanent ink, and it comes with a little protective cover on it. You need to keep that and always put it back on so your ink doesn't dry out. And I'm going to ink up my stamp. And when stamping onto plastic or Shrinky Dinks, it can be a bit slippery, so just make sure that you stamp straight down and back up again. Don't wiggle it, otherwise you'll get a sort of a blurry image. Oh, okay, so there's one. This is definitely by far the best ink to use when stamping on plastic and Shrinky Dinks. Okay, I'll just do a second one. Alright, and always put your lid back on your Stays On so that it doesn't dry out. And when you're cleaning your stamps, use your Stays On ink cleaner, because I find it works better to use that than any other stamp cleaner to clean off your stamps. And don't leave it on there for too long. Don't leave your ink on there for too long, because it will dry out and make it harder to clean off. Okay, so there's that. And I'm also going to get a spare piece of Shrinky Dink, cut a tag from. I'm going to stamp our butterfly. This is our medium butterfly, and just to give it, so we can create a little butterfly that's on there, the detail on him. So again, with Stays On, ink it up, and because Stays On is such a quick drying ink, you may find that it seems to run out of ink a lot quicker. And make sure you always put your lid back on, but it's a wise idea that if you're going to buy a Stays On ink pad, to buy a refill at the same time, so there's nothing worse than you're halfway through a project and you haven't got any ink left. Okay, I'm just going to stamp that like so. Okay, I'll set that aside to dry for a second. So our tag should now be nice and dry. I'm going to flip it over to the rough side up, and I'm going to get our fluid chalk. This is our deep green, and I'm just going to sponge around the edges and some of the flourish. Now the important thing to remember when using Shrinky Dinks is that it's going to shrink. So the colour is going to become a lot more intense. So you don't want to make it really dark because otherwise it'll basically go to black. So I'm just going to lightly sponge around the edges. And you can see how lightly I'm actually doing that. Just I might do a little bit darker towards the corners just to add that sort of dimension and shape. So you could use several different colours if you wanted to give that different effect. Okay, so that you can see that that's quite light compared to the finished tag. It's quite light. Okay, so we'll just let that dry, and while we're doing that, our butterfly should be dry. So I'm going to turn that again over to our rough side, and I'm going to use fluid chalk again. This is Orchid Pastel, and I'm just going to sponge the butterfly. And again, you could use lots of different colours if you wanted to give him some definition and things on his wings, but do remember that he is going to shrink, so it is harder to see that finer detail and colouring. Okay, I'm going to grab my butterfly punch as well, so Kaszazz butterfly punch, and I'm going to line up the butterfly in the centre there and punch him out. Okay, so you'll see I didn't get all the butterfly, I just got the inside of him, but I think that's really nice, just to add a little bit of nice detail to the butterfly. Okay, so then what we need to do, I'm going to bring in my board. I always put anything, whenever I'm going to do my Shrinky Dinks, I always use a board so that I don't burn my table. And I use a muffin tray. It's one of your metal muffin trays. That way I find it's easier to control where your Shrinky Dinks are going, and it can hold in the little piece. And I'm going to grab my heat tool. Okay, now the important thing with Shrinky Dinks is that they are going to curl up. So I hope you can see this on camera. I just put it in this one here. So keep an eye on that one there, and let's shrink. I've got a pair of tweezers ready in case it starts to curl up. I can hold it down. So we'll see how it goes. You always need to keep your heat on it. Now, don't wave it around like this. Just keep it solidly on your piece of Shrinky Dinks, and it will start to curl up. And it will curl up, and then it will start to flatten out again. Once it starts to do that, and you can see it's not getting any smaller, you need to, it's hot, 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 and just bend your edges up a little bit. You don't want to do it too much, and once it starts to harden, if you try and bend it again, it will break. Okay, so there he's curled up. I'm going to sit him aside to dry because he's still quite hot. Okay, so now I'm going to shrink my tag. Now this is a little bit big to fit inside my muffin tin at the moment, but it will shrink to be the right size. So it's important, because it's a bigger item, that you need to make sure that you heat the whole area. Okay, let's go. I'm just holding my tool there because it is a bigger item. It has a tendency to curl up because you've heated the area not as evenly as you would otherwise. So just keep heating, keep heating. It's actually, might need to pull it apart a tiny bit there on the edge. Sometimes for big items they just stick a little bit, so I just pulled it apart before it's set, and we'll keep heating. Okay. And it's shrinking down, and the good thing with Shrinky Dinks is they won't keep shrinking. Once they get to the size that they're going to be, they will stop shrinking. Okay, I think that looks like it's about done. I'm going to tip him out. Using my acrylic block, I'm just going to flatten him. Like the chip packets, I remember as a kid doing chip packets, and they would shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink until they were dust. But the Shrinky Dinks, they don't do that. They just shrink until they reach their proper size, and then they're done. Okay, so there is our finished little tag. So you can see the green got a lot darker when we shrunk it. And then what I'm going to do is grab my glossy accents If your glossy accents gets a little bit clogged, then I use a pin to stick in the middle and down in the hole, which is why I always have a pin on mine. And I'm just going to put my butterfly, so he's flying in the middle there. Now it will take a little bit of time to dry the glossy accents on there, so just let it sit and dry for a little while. But it's a really nice way to create a little embellishment for a card, and so you can cut your Shrinky Dinks with your Ezy-Press, which opens up a whole world of ideas that we can cut. But you can only cut the Shrinky Dinks with your thick paper dies or your 2-in-1 cut and emboss. Don't use your standard paper dies because they won't work. Thanks for watching my video today. I really appreciate your time. If you have any questions for me, you can post them at the bottom of the video, or you can contact me at my blog www.danielleskaszazz.blogspot.com. If you have any questions for Kaszazz, or you'd like to be put in touch with a local consultant, you can contact them on 1800 649 191, or you can contact them via the website www.kaszazz.com, and you can be put in touch with a local consultant and see all the great products on the website as well. Thank you very much for your time.